we just run it. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go to a spreadsheet, and you can see here that we got the messages, right? So I just pull a bunch of data, but if you don't need this, you can just clean that in the mapping, right? But I'm pulling the ID, timestamps, the author ID, then the username. In this case, it's just me, right? These are like the notifications that the bots join. And then, yeah, these are the messages that I just put there in the channel. All right, so short and sweet how you can connect Discord with Google Sheets using the API and app script, right? So first we need to create an app in Discord and we need to connect it with a bot. So I will explain what we need to do there in a second. And then we need to set up a proxy. So the issue with this API is that, the API itself is pretty straightforward. The issue is that Google Sheets makes requests with like certain headers. So we need to like set up a separate proxy so we can go through it to get the things. So I will explain that once we get there, but that's just like a workaround that we need to do only with Google Apps Script, right? If you're doing this with Python or any other language, you shouldn't get a problem here, but this is just for Apps Script. And this is the code structure. So basically, as I mentioned, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to have one orchestrator, the main function, and this one is going to call Discord, right? In this case, what I want to do is just pull the messages from a channel, I just want to show you how it works. But from, based on this, you can follow this logic and just implement more things, right? It's the same. And then once I have the messages, I will write them to a sheet, correct? So let's do it, right? So let's set up a spreadsheet and we can start going. All right, so we are here in the spreadsheet, and let me make this bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So it's gonna put this as Discord, YouTube, right? And then here we go to extensions, app script. Here in app script, I'm just gonna rename the project. Same name. And then here we are. Make it bigger again. Yeah, like that. All right, so first thing that we need to do is set up a config. As always, I always set up a config. Okay, and this is the config. So pretty much it's a variable, right, with more variables inside. So you can see here that we have some things that we need to set up. So as I explained in the beginning, the API is straightforward. The only issue is that in the beginning we need to do like some things to set it up. But once you set this up, it's gonna be easy, right? So the first thing is that we need to get a proxy, right? So as I mentioned, this only happens with AppScript because when you make calls using AppScript, you're using like the Google environment, right? So you are like going through them to make the call. So, but they send some things with the request, right? Like some Google stuff. And Cloudflare, which is like the one that is working with Discord, blocks that stuff, right? So that's why you cannot like make the call directly using AppScript. But if you're using like Python, or if you do your own backend, you should be good, right? But just because you are using like AppScript here, like this environment, you need to go through the proxy. But the proxy is also pretty straightforward. I will explain it. I already code it for you, so you don't need to do anything, but I will just explain how to do it, right? So the first thing that you need to do to get this base proxy, you could do it in multiple ways, right? It's pretty much a backend that is gonna route the messages, but I found that the easiest way is using Cloudflare itself, right? So you just go to Cloudflare. So you go to Cloudflare here, and then you just create an account. It's free. And once you create an account, you're gonna be here in this home page. So you can see on the left that it says compute an AI. You click there, and then the first one, workers and pages, right? So we need to create a worker, pretty much what it's called here. So you can see here that I already have one that I was testing with, but you just create an application here. It's gonna give you some options. So you choose this one, start with a hello world, and then you just deploy that, right? It's gonna pretty much do everything for you, and it's gonna show you this. So when it's deployed, you go here to edit code, and then you just delete all this stuff, and then you just paste what I will put in the description, right? So this is what you need to put. Yeah, so this is the code. And as you can see, like, I think also I need to make this bigger. Yeah, so this is the code. And as you can see, pretty much what it's doing is it's like a router, right? You can think of it like a bridge, pretty much, like it's a bridge between Discord and AppScript environment, right? So you can see that we're making the call actually to our worker to this place. And then this place is routing the call to Discord. And whatever Discord replies, we get it and then we send it back to AppScript. That's pretty much the logic here. So you can see here that we are getting the income request, right? Then we are calling the API, Discord API. Well, we also send the token, right? And then this is just a guard, just making sure that we actually got a token, so this doesn't break. And once we make the call, and once we get the information, we just return it to our app script. So you can see pretty simple. So you just deploy that, and it will give you this URL here that you can see, right? You can see here, this is the URL that we need, right? So you just copy that, then you go back to app script, and then you just paste it here under proxy base, right? So that's pretty much it. Like once you have this, you're good to go with this part of the proxy part. So we need to get the channel ID, right? And the channel ID, if we go to Discord, I was just testing, I just created this account for this demo. So you will right click and then it will show you this option. However, the first, like if you don't, like if you're doing this for the first time, most probably you don't have this option here. So what you need to do is you need to turn on developer mode. So the way you do it is that you see the gear here, right? So you go to user settings, and then here the last one, advanced, right? So you click there and it gives you the option, right? Developer mode. You can turn it on. So just toggle this on, and it will, and from there you go back, and then when you right click here, it's gonna show you this part. So that's the channel ID, right? So you just copy that and you paste it here under channel ID, right? And then the last part that we need to do is getting this bot token, all right? So the way you do it is that you go to developer apps in Discord, and then you create a bot. So this is what I mean. You can see here the URL, Discord developers / applications, right? I will put that in the description so you can go directly. And once you are here, you just create an application. I was testing, so you can see these two here, but you just new application, I just give it a name. I'll put just test, right? Like that. Yes, I'm a human. And then we wait. Okay, and then we have our app here, right? So here we need to do a couple of things, right? So the first part is that we need to go to OAuth 2 here on the left, right? This one here. And then here, so the first one is what we need to create a URL, but the cool thing about this is that it creates the URL for us, so we can authorize the app, right? So we don't need to do it ourselves. But we need to select the scopes, right? So here you just select the scope, whatever you want to do with this bot. In this case, as I mentioned, I just want to read the messages from a channel. So you need to first, actually you need to like choose here bot, right? You can do a bunch of stuff here, but like I will create a bot, right? So you click here in bot, and then it shows you what is the permissions for this bot. So again, I want to see the channels, and I want to read the messages from that channel, right? So read messages history, right? And you can see here that the URL got generated. So you just copy that and you just paste it, and it will show you this tab, right? So you can select what will be the server. In this case, I created this one, and you just authorize. Again, you need to, and voila, that's done, right? Actually, something that is important is that if you haven't set up 2FA, you might need to do it before doing this step, right? So if you're having like some issues, like you don't like you cannot create applications, you need to go to settings, create a 2FA, right? You can put like email verification, phone number, or like this token that is refreshing every 10 seconds or something, and then that's it, then you can create an app. But yeah, like once you finish with that, we authorize the app. So let me, if you go to the channel, you will see it. Let me put it here. You can see here that our bot joined the channel, right? So that's cool. But we need to do something else. So you go here to bot, and then here under bot, we can get the token, right? But we need to allow message content for this case because we're reading messages, right? So you toggle this on, save changes, and then we reset the token, right? So again, as I mentioned, this is my 2FA, but whatever you have, it will prompt you to verify. And yeah, once you verify, you can see a token here. So this is what we need. Copy that token here, and then you go back to the environment and you paste it. And voila, with that, we are ready to go and code the rest of the functions. So just to recapitulate here, we need to build 3 functions, right? One main, one fetcher, and the one that is going to write to HT, right? So let's start with main Discord. Okay, so this is main Discord. As you can see, pretty short. We are getting the messages, right? Using the fetcher that I'm going to put below. And then we just write to HT. Pretty straightforward, right? So now let's put the fetcher. So the fetcher is this one. And basically what it's doing is using our proxy to get the messages, right? So you can see here that we are using the URL that we just go here for this proxy part, right? And then we just calling this endpoint channels because this is the one we need, but depending on what you are doing with this bot, this will change. And then here we're passing the channel ID that we need. And then here we're limiting messages, right? So this is just like a safe check in case you have like, thousands or millions of messages in a channel. You don't want this to be running and running and running, right? So you can just set up a cap, in this case, 100 messages, but as you can see, I don't have many, just 2. So that will be fast. But if you have more, it will just pull the last 100 messages, right? And then, yeah. And actually, I forgot to mention the sheet name is going to be the sheet name. When we run the bot, it's going to create that sheet name, right? But yeah, here we're just making a call to this proxy, and then we just parse whatever we get back. Let me clean this a little bit more. Yeah, like that. Yeah, all right. So pretty much again, it's just gonna make the call to our proxy. Our proxy is gonna route that to Discord, and it's gonna return back whatever Discord replies, and then we get that, and we just parse it, right? So that's pretty much the logic here. And then once we get the messages, we need to write them to a sheet, right? So this is the function for that. So you can see that it just creates the sheet and then it writes the messages. So you can see here that we're pretty much what we're doing is like checking if we already have the sheet. If we have the sheet already, it's gonna clean it. If we don't have the sheet, it's gonna create the sheet, right? You can see here we're cleaning it. And then here we're just setting up some headers. And then we just write. Pretty much we're mapping the response, this part here, to our headers. So we're kind of like building this table so we can push everything to a spreadsheet, right? So you can see here that once we have the table, everything mapped, we just make a call and pushed. You can see here that I'm doing just one push, meaning like I'm writing in bulk. So if you like, just like efficiency, right? So if you can always try to write in bulk when you are like writing something to a spreadsheet, it's gonna make it like super fast. Because if you're like writing literally row by row, it's gonna take ages. Imagine if you're like pulling a 1,000 messages, it's gonna take like ages, right? So it's better to map everything first and then just push everything to a spreadsheet on only one call. Yeah, that's it, guys. So now let's save this and run it, and we should be able to see our messages. Actually, let me write something in the channel so we can see more things. So hi, this is a test. How are you? So we should be able to see 4 messages, right? Our first hi, and then 3 more messages here. So let's do that. We just run it. Run main Discord. First time that you run this, you're gonna get this pop up. just follow the flow. Yeah, go to Discord, and then here, just allow these accesses. That's it. Well, let's see, let's go to a spreadsheet, and you can see here that we got the messages, right? So I just pull a bunch of data, but if you don't need this, you can just clean that in the mapping, right? But I'm pulling the ID, timestamps, the author ID, then the username. In this case, it's just me, right? These are like the notifications that the bots join. And then, yeah, these are the messages that I just put there in the channel. And yeah, that's it pretty much, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to drop them down below in the comments. I will reply to them as soon as I see them.